Let's be honest, Pokemon has completely lost the plot. Nothing makes sense with Pokemon card prices anymore. Cards that no one cared about 2 months ago are completely skyrocketing in price. And we're naming things like the Boogamew, as if that's meant to make sense to us collectors. So yeah, Pokemon's officially reached some new lows. Now let's talk about what's actually going on with the Pokemon world, because things are starting to get a little bit weird. Every single week now we're starting to see hype trends come out of absolutely nowhere. A random card from a random set gets picked up by the community, and out of nowhere the price just starts to skyrocket. It's like people out of nowhere have decided that logic does not matter in the Pokemon TCG anymore. Like once upon a time we could predict what would go up in value. Charizard, always safe. Pikachu, fine. Big legendaries like Mewtwo, Rayquaza, Lugia, perfect. But now it could be a Solosis or a Clobberpuss. Guys, a literal snot with a bubble. And somehow at one point it was trending at $70 on eBay. It feels artificial, manufactured, and it is. Because a lot of hype in Pokemon doesn't always come from the card itself anymore. Some of it is coming from who drew it. Let's talk about the elephant in the room then, the Boogamew. Yep, that's really what people are actually calling it. And the fact I even have to say that sentence out loud is a little bit ridiculous. And it started with the illustrator, Usgmen. He's one of the newest Pokemon illustrators to get into the game. And one of Usgmen's first cards was the Bubblemew. And as we all know, it's such an iconic card now. It looks really cute, it looks really good, the colours are cool, it's got that bubble with the Mew just floating in the middle at peace. And that card eventually just blew up and prices soared. And then a fandom was born. And since then, Usgmen is a little bit of a celebrity in the Pokemon card community. Every time they draw a card, it becomes a little bit iconic. And a little bit annoyingly, no matter what Pokemon it is, it just seems to get immediate attention. And it's like everyone in the Pokemon card community has just decided, right, this guy draws something, let's make it valuable. So now we have the Boogamew, and that's what everyone is calling the Solosis. And it exploded in price simply because Usgmen drew it. And the card itself isn't anything special. It's fine. Colors are cool. Similar to the Bubblemew, but it's not the Bubblemew. Yet people are paying a ridiculous price for it. And we've actually seen this before with Shinji Kanda, who's the artist behind some of the most abstract and coolest Pokemon cards ever drawn. And anything with Shinji Kanda's style immediately explodes in price and sells for an absolute premium. And even the most random Pokemon can get elevated just because Shinji draws it. And now the same thing is happening with Usgmen. Don't get me wrong, I'm not complaining that artists are starting to get recognition. They should get recognition for what they're drawing. And the Pokemon TCG has always been seen than just a Pokemon game. It's an art gallery of lots of little pieces. But New Wave hype is a little bit different. It's not appreciation, it's a little bit more like obsession. And it's a lot less like, ooh, I love this artwork. It's more like, ooh, that person likes the artwork, so I'm gonna go buy the artwork. And that itself isn't collecting, it's just FOMO. And I've said this lots of times, FOMO is bad. And if we look at the numbers for a little second, in September, the Solosis was selling for $11. And then it just shot up to $67, all because it was drawn by Usgmen, and people wanted it because they thought it might end up like the Bubblemew. Unfortunately, Solosis is not Mew, so the same thing isn't going to happen. And even the Clobberpuss card from the same illustrator kind of got caught up in the hype and went up that little bit. And if you think about it, these cards aren't meta cards. You're not going to be using them in the game. They're not that good. They're just getting caught up in hype. And they're not even that hard to pull. And I think we do get it. It is quite fun just to see what gets caught up in the fire. Can I buy this $5 card? And then can it shoot up to $25 and I make that little bit of money back with a completely random Pokemon. But if you're trying to do this, you kind of got to think, do people actually like this card? Or are people just jumping on it for the sake of jumping on it? When that's the driving force behind demand, it's not sustainable. We've seen this exact pattern happen dozens of times over the last few years. The card starts rising in value, collectors notice, YouTubers make videos about it, and TikToks go viral. Then, people who don't even collect Pokemon cards start seeing the videos and start jumping on this card for the sake of it's being talked about. And suddenly the market gets filled with artificial demand. Prices shoot up and then people start flipping it for profit. Then, as we all know, the hype dies down and price goes down again. And then everyone moves on. and repeat and repeat and repeat. And it's the same story every time. You get the Magikarp from Paldea Evolved, which was Shinji Kanda, which is still quite higher price, but it did come down a little bit. Eevee Heroes Full Arts because of Prismatic Evolutions, the original Bubble Mew, and now the Solosis, but maybe next month it's Trubbish or Dunsparce, or any other random Pokemon. And this isn't really bad, it does keep the hobby exciting, but does make it harder for newer collectors to figure out what's actually true, what do I actually need to collect, or is this just hype, smoke and mirrors? Do I actually need to be going after this thing because everyone's talking about it? So we're at a point now when people don't just collect Pokemon cards, they're collecting illustrators. 5 years ago, people would say, oh, I'm hunting Charizards. Now they're saying, I'm making a Shinji Kanda binder or an Usgmen binder. And it's kind of fascinating because the TCG has become an art market. I don't think it was really intended for that when it first came out. And instead of buying paintings on a canvas that's going on the wall, people are buying 2 to 3 inch pieces of shiny Pokemon card which look really cool. And honestly, I'm down for it. But here is the downside. Because when collecting turns into speculation, prices don't reflect the Pokemon, they just reflect the hype. Now let's talk about the Bubble Mew though. Card that started craze. It's now between 650 to 700, but a year ago it was worth around 120, and that's quite a crazy price for, if we think about it, not that super rare of a card. It's not a chase all art, it's not a tournament promo, it's just a good looking card. And to be fair, it is kind of really nice. But if we compare with the Giratina V alt art from Lost Origin, one of the hardest modern cards to pull, with a pull rate of around 1 in 700 packs, that card is actually cheaper, which is kind of insane when it's way harder to pull and way rarer. So there we have an objectively rarer card, which is actually cheaper than the Bubble Mew. And this is what we mean when Pokemon has officially lost it. Not Pokemon itself, the people that are buying the Pokemon. We're a little bit insane. And the longer you collect Pokemon cards, the more you realise how inconsistent the market can be. Rarity doesn't always equal value, and popularity doesn't always equal demand. And sometimes the market just does what it wants. Sometimes trying to apply logic to the Pokemon card market is like trying to teach a Magikarp how to drive a car. It's just not going to happen. This is why I always say collect what you love, not what everybody else loves and what everybody else is chasing, because the more you do that, the more you're just going to get burned collecting cards that you don't really care about. And if you bought the Solosis that was $60, $70, probably just watching it drop in price and thinking, probably shouldn't have done that. And speaking of hype, here's another one. The Seismitoad from Black Ball did the exact same thing. It went from $50, $70 all the way up to $200 overnight. And why? Because it's a Shinji Kanda card. And people are hoping it does the exact same thing as the Magikarp from Paldea Evolved, which is another Shinji Kanda card which became a modern classic. The key difference here is Magikarp is iconic, Seismitoad isn't. This isn't me hating on Seismitoad. You just can't compare it with one of the most iconic cards in the Pokemon TCG and anime. You just can't. Because when you do, everything just becomes completely speculative. And speaking of Black Bolt and White Flare are one of the talks of the community at the moment. Both sets dropped in the not too distant past, but one is kind of outperforming the other. Black Bolt boxes are slightly ahead of White Flare at the moment, but don't write White Flare off yet, because sometimes the less sought after sets end up becoming hidden gems in the near future. And while we're talking about Black Bolt and White Flare, why don't we talk about the monochromatic cards? We have the Reshiram and the Zekrom and the Victini. And now we have the Mega Lucario, the Mega Gardevoir. Everyone thought they'd become instant collector staples, but they're actually dropping off ever so slightly. And even though they're rare, are they especially memorable for people? Personally, I absolutely love them. But what is the market showing? And if you look at cards like the Umbreon Alt Art, you look at that card and know exactly why it's worth what it is. And that's the difference between manufactured rarity and natural desirability. And this brings us to another issue, the art direction in modern sets. And Pokemon is producing some of the nicest artworks that we've seen in a long time. For example, Crown Zenith gold cards had storytelling, movement, coolness, design, whereas some people think the new gold cards are a little bit flat and lifeless. It's like Pokemon knows that collectors want rarity, but they've forgotten that rarity doesn't make something popular. And where does this all go? Well, Pokemon definitely isn't dying. It's the complete opposite. It's just changing. For the last few years, been watching it go from a TCG game to a full-on market. Collectors are more informed, more passionate, and way more impulsive. But beneath all the hype and chaos, one thing hasn't changed. Getting a card that means a lot to you, especially when you pull it out of a pack. Whether it's the $5 Clobbopus or the $500 Mew. If it's a card that you like, it doesn't matter. If you love it, that's what makes it valuable. So don't get lost in the hype, don't get lost in chart prices, collect stories and not trends. Because the real magic of Pokemon has never been in the prices. It's the feeling you get when you hold one of your favourite cards and you remember why you started collecting in the first place. So if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to hit the subscribe button and like this video and drop a comment in the comment section. And tell me what some of your favourite cards are. And check out these videos, one where I analyse how Mega Evolution is doing in the market, and the other one where I analyse how Destined Rivals is doing and why it is getting its recent price trends. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.